Hello. Today we are studying U16. It's called Animals Stories. But at first, let's check some exercise for the last unit. Write what you would say. Encourage your brother to continue talking about yesterday's school parties. Good news. As we said before, that we can use wonderful. Tell me more. You ask your teacher to give you more information about the new interesting lesson. Please, sir, can you give me some more information about the new interesting lesson? You meet someone for the first time. You can say, how do you do? Or nice to meet you. We have some key vocab here. The first one, the water cycle. The water cycle is the process that shows how water is found on earth. It's the process that shows how water is found on earth. Number 2, evaporation. Evaporation. Number 3, condensation. Condensation. Number 4, water vapor, like steam. Water vapor equals steam. Number 5, do an experiment. Do an experiment. The experiment is the process that you can do inside labs on your science lesson. Number 6, safety advice. The scientists give us some safety advice to follow inside labs while doing experiments. We have the word water drops. Water drops. The drops that can fall when you do an experiment, or the drops of the raindrops. We also have the word bread is made from flour and water and salt. Made from. But the word made of, like chairs and tables, are made of wood. Okay? Today we are studying the past perfect tense. The past perfect tense that is formed by the subject equals had equals the subject plus had, the subject plus had plus past participle, like I went to the park because I had finished my homework. So I finished my homework first, then I went to the park. I found the watch which I had lost. It's 10 o'clock now. By 7 o'clock, I had already got dressed. Hoda had finished cooking by 3 o'clock yesterday. Reem was upset because her friend hadn't phoned her. He had fixed the old chair. It looked new. If you hadn't helped me, I would have been in trouble. I wish you had told me the truth. I'd rather you hadn't borrowed my dictionary. So the time expressions of the past perfect tense here, like after, as soon as, when, before, by the time, till, until, by, already, just, ever, never, the moment, immediately on, shortly after. But we have to study some of these words. Look at the first example here. First, Danny visited the mall, then he came home. So the first action here was visiting the mall, then the second action was coming home. So after Danny had visited the mall, he came home. So the first action always formed in the past perfect, which was had plus the past participle, and the second action in the sentence must be in the past simple. If we say, before Danny came home, so he had visited the mall. Danny didn't come home until he had visited the mall. If you don't have a subject in the first sentence, you can say, after visiting the mall, Danny came home. So You can use the gerund form. It's the verb plus ing after the word after. And also after the word before. Before coming home, Danny had visited the mall. Let's check some examples. First, I studied my lessons, then I did my homework. Use after. After I had studied my lessons, I did my homework. First, I finished my homework, then I went to the club. Use until. So I didn't go to the club until I had finished my homework. Number 3, after we had visited the museum, we had lunch. Use until. We didn't have lunch until we had visited the museum. Number 4, first we booked tickets, then we went to the concert. Use before. It's started with a small letter, so we have to put it in the middle of the two sentences. We had booked the tickets before we went to the concert. Use as soon as. Ali ran away after seeing the line. Ali ran away as soon as he saw the line. Hala saw her marks. She ran to tell her father. Seeing. After seeing her marks, Hala ran to tell her father. We watched the DVD after having dinner. Use before. Before we watched the DVD, we had dinner. Let's make this exercise easier. Mona reached the station. She called Yasin. Use before. Mona had reached the station before she called Yasin. After stealing the money, the thief ran away. Use had. After the thief had stolen the money, he ran away. Number 3, first Sarah wrote the report, then she handed it to the manager. So Sarah didn't hand the report to the manager until she had written it. Ali arrived home. He found that someone robbed his house. So when Ali arrived home, he found that someone had robbed his house. And now let's check some expressions like checking that someone has understood. Do you understand what I mean? Are you following me? Is this clear to you? To check that you yourself, you have understood. Do you mean like this? Can I just check that I have understood correctly? Confirming understanding like I see or I understand what you mean. Sorry, I couldn't understand you. Please, can you explain it again? And now, it's an exercise. Choose. Look at that's very useful before reading a book. So look at the contents. Look at the contents. That's very useful before reading a book. Number 2, a story with a has a message. So a story with a moral has a message. Number 3, I documents before the computer crashed. I had saved documents before the computer crashed. After the shopping, I went home. So after doing the shopping, I went home, because the first sentence doesn't have a subject. Number 5, the river was dry because it for 2 months. So because it had it rained for 2 months. Okay? Thank you very much. That's all for today. Goodbye.